Bill Rabinowitz of the Dispatch joining us right now. Can I ask you, Bill, to start with, we were talking about we're now 2 weeks into administrative leave. Were you surprised at all that Ryan Day was the one that was the quote-unquote interim head coach during all of this?
Yeah, I was. I thought it'd be Greg Schiano for obvious reasons. He's been a head coach at Rutgers, did very well there, was coach in the NFL. When he was up for the Tennessee job and it looked like he was going to get it and didn't after the backlash there, Gene Smith was very public in defending Schiano. Again, the issue supposedly was his Penn State ties and what he did or didn't do regarding the Sandusky thing, which is pretty much, I think most people around here would think is quite a stretch to think that he did anything wrong. So given that, I would have thought he would have been the obvious choice. I mean, Kevin Wilson also had been a head coach, but he had been fired at Indiana after allegations that he had not been as sensitive as he should have been to injured players. So I get why he's not the interim coach, but Ryan Day's never been a head coach. So that's one of the many unanswered questions is why Ryan Day. And look, he's a rising star in the profession. We know that. Turned out a job with the Tennessee Titans to stay at Ohio State, got a big raise in salary and also in promotion to the same title as Kevin Wilson, offensive coordinator. But there's been no explanation for why it was Ryan Day.
Bill, you used to be, you're not now, but you used to vote in the, you used to vote in the AP poll because you and I used to, compare notes and stuff. I was just saying to Stan that I had to turn in my AP ballot the other day. And I didn't clobber Ohio State, but with the uncertainty, and even if Coach Meyer survives this, which, I think he will, but I don't know, just the turmoil involved, it did affect how I voted them. I didn't clobber them. I moved them down a little bit. Do you think this is something that could be a distraction, could affect them a little bit? Would it, if you were voting, would it come into your mind, gosh, I don't know about Ohio State, maybe I got to move them down a little bit? Or do you think this is, if Urban keeps his job, a blip on the radar that 2 months from now we don't even think about?
That's a good question. I've not given it any thought. I'm glad I'm not an AP voter anymore. It was just way too time consuming to try to do it right. And if God forbid he ever made a mistake,
I know,
from that team's fan base.
Yeah.
It just, and you don't get paid for it. The whole thing was kind of like, okay, why am I doing this? So I admire you for continuing to do it, Matt. I would think that it might hurt them a little bit if you are kind of debating between teams and you go, okay, well, it's 50-50. I might drop them a spot here. Yeah, I can see it. It doesn't really matter. But, yeah, I could see there's 3 in the coaches poll, which came out before all this stuff happened. I would think they'd still be a top 5 team, but, I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped to 4 or 5, I guess.
Visiting with Bill Rabinowitz of the Dispatch, talking Ohio State football. Bill, we've been saying that it's all guesswork at this time, but you had the story about Zach Smith. We know either yesterday or today, speaking with investigators, and do you have any guess, any inclination? The deadline, so to speak, is Sunday, but do you have any feel at all of whether it's going to be before that, after that, when they make a decision and come out with an announcement about the football coach?
Yeah, I don't. I wish I did. It'd be easier to plan my life and all that kind of good stuff. I would think it wouldn't be on a Sunday.
That's what Stan and I were saying. That just seems like an odd deadline. Like, that's why I was wondering if it would be Friday. Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe. Then again, they announced the stuff about the committee at 10:12 on Sunday night. So
yeah.
So who knows what they'll do? I don't think they're going to have a press conference at 10 o'clock on Sunday night, and I would think they would have to do it in that kind of form. I mean, I don't know. It's a good question. There's so many twists and turns in these things with this thing, and I've almost gotten to the point where I just try to keep my eye focused on what I need to do and I don't get distracted by the sideshow. I don't get distracted by speculation on what might happen. I have no control over that. I'm a reporter. I'm just trying to find out what is happening. And so it's hard. It's hard because there's so much speculation and there's so little hard evidence of anything right now.
The sideshow, as you point out, and that we've spent a lot of time talking about, whether it's the stories about the how valid are the domestic violence claims, whether it's the stories about Tom Herman tipping off Brett McMurphy, all of that stuff that's going on around this. Ultimately, how much, if anything, does any of that stuff in your mind have to do with what the committee's deciding about Urban Meyer?
I don't think a lot. I mean, I don't think it matters who told what when. I don't think that in terms of the media stuff. I'm not talking about Urban Meyer and what I think that matters a lot, and Gene Smith for that matter. But I don't think that kind of the inside baseball stuff about journalism and media coverage, I don't think that really matters a whole lot. And honestly, that's why we've tried to kind of stay clear of it as much as possible, because it is soap opera-ish, and you kind of get into the I don't know what the right word is, muck of it.
Yeah.
And it's like for what purpose? And so you kind of can go into that hole and it becomes a black hole where you can't get out. And so sometimes it's easier just not to do that. That doesn't mean, look, you have to pay attention to everything, and we are paying attention to everything. But there are a lot of things that we know, suspect, have a clue about that, we're trying to be very careful in what we report.
Bill, with the situation here in Columbus that we are knee-deep in, and then you have what's going on at Maryland, this has not really been a great month or so for the Big Ten. Is it? I saw Dennis Dodd of CBS Sportsline with a really good article about the number of scandals that we've seen in the Big Ten. This is I'm asking you an obvious question. This has not been a very good month for the Big Ten, and I imagine from a national perspective, this is damaging to the league and to Jim Delaney, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's funny because maybe 10 years ago, let's say right before Urban Meyer came, there was talk that the Big Ten was irrelevant, or at least losing relevance. It had not done well in football, certainly. And now you can certainly make the case the Big Ten East might be the best division in college football. Mm-hmm. And yet with that, you look at the Big Ten East, Ohio State's going through what it's going through. Maryland, obviously a tragedy there. Michigan State's just coming off what they went through. Michigan even got this little shoe thing that's going on, and I don't think it's a big deal, but it's something. It's a black eye. There's no question about it. So, is any of the stuff, really awful? The Maryland stuff is. I mean, I think the Maryland stuff is very serious because you're talking about a player death, and you're talking about a very preventable player death. Clearly, the guy was pushed beyond what he should have been pushed, the player, and that's awful. And then I thought the Maryland president in particular did a very nice job, very effective job in conveying his outrage and his sensitivity toward that. So I thought he did well, but there's still a lot of questions at Maryland, and apparently I saw on Twitter that they wanted to ask some more questions, and they basically cut the reporters off, and so there are a lot of questions still at Maryland. Obviously, the Ohio State thing will be resolved hopefully sooner rather than later, but there are a lot of questions about. And there will be questions unless the committee is very, very thorough in detailing everything they found and it included. But, it's not been a great offseason for the Big Ten, no question.
Yeah, I will give Maryland credit, Bill, in that they did confront it and had a press conference and spoke. Now, I do realize Jordan McNair passed away at the end of May, so it's been a couple of months.
Right, 2 months.
But
right.
they did speak, and, I wish somebody at Ohio State would have said something. But it is what it is here. That's you and me are not going to change their mind on how they've handled it. And truth be told, I don't know whether they've handled it right or not. It's just, I guess the reporter in me wishes somebody, whether it's President Drake or something, would have addressed something as we sit here and wait. The silence is deafening, So
yeah, he has not said anything. Gene Smith has not said anything. Urban Meyer, understandably, has not said anything. But the other thing is, we're not able to really report on the team itself. I mean, the team is practicing. They're practicing for 2 weeks, and there are no interviews, not even with Ryan Day.
Yep.
And so I can understand not putting the players in front of microphones and all that kind of stuff. I kind of get it. I think they can certainly handle it. But to not have coaches available 2 weeks into camp, I mean. It's their choice. They can do what they want, but I don't think it serves them particularly well.
I'm with you, Bill. Hey, thanks for taking a few minutes on something that, we're knee-deep in, but we really don't know what direction it's going to go, but we appreciate you taking a few minutes, Bill.
Always happy to do it, Matt.